What's going on, guys? Tucker here from Fourth Meal Tech, and today I have for you the long-awaited review of the Moto X Pure Edition. So I've been using this phone for about the past 2 weeks, and so far I really love it. It comes in with a really nice 1440p display that gets really bright as well as really dim when you need it in low light situations. Now the display is really crispy and has very good color saturation, and honestly I couldn't tell that this was a really small phone screen. Like, it felt like my everyday computer usage screen. The speed was really good on the Moto X Pure, and I think that's partly thanks to the Android Lollipop software that it's running. It's got a very, very lightly skinned version of Android, and Motorola put some of their features like twist to unlock the camera as well as the double chop to unlock the flashlight if you need it, which are nice features, but it still really feels like a stock Android experience, which I personally love. And as I said, the speed was really fast. It blew through multitasking, even like heavy gaming loads, games like Real Racing 3, it could just play them just fine running on that Snapdragon 808 processor. And also with the 3 gigs of RAM, it could multitask just fine. I could run a YouTube video and then quickly switch between texting someone and go back to the YouTube video or whatever. It worked really speedily and really nicely. Now, as you see on the front, there are 2 front-facing speakers, and these are stereo speakers this year. They upgraded them from last year, which just had 1 front-facing speaker, and not many phones have front-facing stereo speakers, so it was really nice to see this feature on such a low-priced phone. And the speakers got really loud and still held their very good quality. And you could hear, if you were watching a car go across the screen, it would go from the left to the right using those stereo speakers. So that was a really nice feature of the Moto X. And if you look to the top right of the phone, you'll see that 5 megapixel front-facing camera. And yes, that is a front-facing flash on there. That's a tongue twister, but it'll really help you with those night selfies if you're into that kind of thing. And speaking of cameras, we go to the back of the phone where it has that 21 megapixel shooter. Now, the camera on the Moto X has been a lot improved since last year's. A lot of people didn't like last year's camera, but Motorola has really stepped it up this year. And I think the camera is very good for a phone camera. Sure, it may not compare to things like the Galaxy Note 5 or the iPhone 6s, but for everyone's daily usage, I think this camera will do you very well. Now, the thing I didn't like about the camera was the app. It was very confusing, just not very user intuitive, and you had to tap on the screen anywhere to take a photo, which I don't prefer because I like to be able to focus my shots before I take them. But overall, it was usable and not that bad. Now, the phone also shoots 4K video, which is really nice, but there is no optical image stabilization, so your videos might get a little shaky. Now, the battery life on the phone was actually pretty impressive for the price point, and it came in at about 4.5 hours of screen on time per day, which left me with about 20 to 30% at the end of the day, which was really nice. And on heavy days, you have the turbocharging, which is very, very fast. Now, the only thing I wish they had changed about this is the power brick is directly attached to the cable, so you can't use the cable to connect to your computer to import media or whatever else you may be importing. But overall, battery life was top notch. Now, the design of this phone was something that people were quite concerned about because it just gets bigger and bigger every year. You'll see from the original Moto X, which was a 4.7-inch display, it's grown an entire inch over 2 years, given the Moto X last year's edition, and then again this year the Moto X Pure has grown very large, which a lot of people were concerned about, but the phone doesn't feel that big. The bezels are small enough that you can wield it in one hand, and I found myself even using one-handed texting occasionally. Now, obviously this does depend on your hand size, but I didn't find that the size of the phone was a factor that was bad about the phone. Now, you do have that nice little dimple in the back of the phone, as well as metal edges going around the side, and I opted for the silicone back, which was really grippy and nice to hold. I never felt like I was going to drop the phone out of my hand. Now, given all that information, you got to remember that this phone only costs $400, which is a very, very competitive and I think a very good price point for this device. Now, it competes with things like the OnePlus 2 and other phones from different companies like Alcatel, One Touch, and I think this is the best phone you can get for under $400. With that micro SD card slot, you can just buy the 16 gig version for $400 and then upgrade your storage, and you're basically good to go. With the nice design, the good battery life, the decent camera, and ultimately awesome performance, I think the Moto X is a good buy for anyone. Anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to click that like button down below as it helps the channel out, and subscribe if you want more technology content. Thanks, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.